Well, welcome everyone to the Hemispheric University Consortium Social Ideas Challenge. We're thrilled to have you with us today. This is a long time coming, but I'm sure you're going to see what wonderful things happen when everyone collaborates to do good. I'm Dr. Susan Amat. I'm really happy to be the moderator today for this historic launch. I've been involved in entrepreneurship for many, many years. I started the Launchpad at the University of Miami years ago, and I returned to run entrepreneurial initiatives for the Herbert Miami Business School. And I get to do fun things all over the world, finding great talent, startups, and scale-ups, and connecting them, exactly what this challenge is trying to do. The agenda today is really simple. We want to make sure you have all the tools and information you need to become part of this incredible initiative. We're going to next hear from the university presidents making up the 6 partner institutions in building this consortium. That's going to be followed by a panel with some of the most incredible social entrepreneurs we know, really sharing their stories, their perspectives, and what has brought them to this journey of not only doing good, but making an impact on a regular basis. Where do they find the energy? How do you find a good idea? And I think you're going to find them to be incredible people with great business minds. After that, we're going to hear a lot more about the challenge itself so that all of your questions about how to get involved and next steps are answered. And then we're going to have the official launch. We're really, really excited to press that go button and see what incredible ideas that are really going to change the world and have an incredible impact come in. So I'm very happy to introduce leaders from the 6 universities that make up the Hemispheric University Consortium. They're all here to welcome you and share their vision for why we got involved. See you soon.
Universidad San Francisco de Quito is excited to participate in the HUC Social Ideas Challenge. Entrepreneurship is a core class in our liberal arts curriculum. We believe in the impact of business as a positive agent of change to drive solutions to the world's pressing challenges. Participating in the Social Ideas Challenge is a great opportunity for students to use their skills and knowledge acquired in their academic journey and apply them to creative, viable solutions that address critical real-world issues through the lens of entrepreneurship. Selected teams will be able to learn from HUC's network of experts to fine-tune their ideas and bring them closer to implementations. You will be exposed to teams of international students and professors through an enriching experience that will surely provide you with tools to apply your innovative ideas in real-world settings. I encourage you all to apply and will be looking forward to see results of your work. We welcome you to visit our campuses in Quito, the Galápagos, and the Amazon. Good luck.
Estimada comunidad, con mucha alegría les saludo en el lanzamiento de este desafío que estoy seguro será memorable para todos nuestros estudiantes. Como Universidad Andrés Bello, estamos comprometidos con el desarrollo sostenible a través de distintas acciones que nos permiten abordar los desafíos sociales y ambientales más apremiantes de los últimos tiempos. En esta oportunidad, estamos muy orgullosos de participar de este programa que reunirá a cientos de jóvenes de distintas naciones. Soy un convencido de que la humanidad necesita jóvenes como ustedes, dispuestos a ser verdaderos agentes de cambio que respondan a la misión de resolver problemáticas sociales reales. Quisiera enviar un gran saludo a esta nueva generación de líderes. Tenemos las más grandes expectativas respecto de su participación. Los invito a hacer historia y a pensar en grande. Espero que puedan aprovechar al máximo esta instancia y que sea el inicio de una nueva forma de mirar la realidad.
Hi everyone, regards from Argentina. Welcome to the HUC Social Ideas Challenge. This is an activity we are really enthusiastic to promote because it reinforces our vision at Universidad Austral, which is inspired by disruptive, sustainable, global, and people-centered approach, and to service the community. We have a strong commitment to promote the entrepreneurial spirit in our students as part of their learning process. And as we have an active role also in our community to promote the consolidation of the entrepreneurial ecosystem as a way to contribute to the productive development of the region. So to make this real, we created and launched it here at Universidad Austral the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Lab, to foster innovation across the university and to help to train leaders who will hopefully create value in the community by implementing new companies with a positive economic, social, and environmental impact. We believe that HUC Social Ideas Challenge, as a global activity, brings a huge opportunity to leverage social environmental entrepreneurship, its concepts and its principles, and to be a transformative driver for change. Join the challenge, showcase your idea to impact the world, and exchange ideas with other students from other universities of the HUC.
As Vice President for International Affairs at UC Chile, I am happy to welcome you to this first international competition of the Hemispheric University Consortium Network. The HUC Social Ideas Challenge, in which 8 of our 26 universities will participate. We are very happy to have this event. Our university is committed to finding solutions to problems with a global approach, in which we believe that innovation is not only a bridge to apply our creativity to solve problems, but these solutions should have an impact on our society. I hope this contest is a learning space where you can apply all your knowledge, your abilities, your skills, and you can put your heart on it. So good luck, and I wish you all the best.
Hi, my name is Hari Natarajan. I'm Vice Dean of Business Programs at the Miami Herbert Business School. At our school, our mission is to develop principal leaders that transform global business and society. So I'm particularly pleased that we are co-hosts of the Hemispheric University Consortium's Social Ideas Challenge. As you know, this particular event brings together teams from across the hemisphere to address important societal challenges as outlined by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. These are important challenges. Not only does this bring awareness to these issues, but also helps us take the first steps towards tackling these important societal challenges. As you can imagine, putting together an event like this requires a heavy lift, so I'm especially thankful for our partners in the steering committee at the Hemispheric University Consortium. I'm also particularly thankful to our featured speakers, Melissa Medina, Feliz Gorordo, Karim Pichara, and Ricky Cassini. I want to thank you all. I look forward to welcoming you in person in April. Good luck, and welcome to the launch of the Social Ideas Challenge.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Mildred de Reyesa, Academic Director for the Business School at Tecnológico de Monterrey. I am very happy to have this space to share a few words with you. At Tecnológico de Monterrey, we are very excited to be part of this international contest, the Social Ideas Challenge. We truly believe that social business ideas and projects will help us to solve some of the world's biggest problems. There is a new generation of young entrepreneurs that aim to add meaningful value to our society and the world. And that's why I invite you to be part of this international contest. Join us here, where passion meets vision and positive impact. See you soon.
Well, I think that was a great example of the incredible diverse number of universities involved, but also the passion and excitement each school is bringing to working with all of you students in the classroom, outside the classroom, to build something amazing for the hemisphere. So without any further ado, I am thrilled to introduce our panelists today. First up is a force of nature, Melissa Medina. She's the co-founder and president of Emerge Americas, which is focused on transforming Miami into the tech hub of the Americas. She also serves as the president of the Medina Family Foundation, which is focused on funding and playing an active role in local initiatives that focus on mentoring children and empowering families. She has been an incredible friend and ally through so many things, and I'm thrilled that you get to hear her story today. Felice Gorordo is currently the CEO of Emerge Americas, as well as a venture partner at the private equity fund I Squared Capital and an advisor of Reef Technology. Felice also co-founded and leads Roots of Hope, a nonprofit focused on youth empowerment in Cuba. He worked on the reestablishment of U.S.-Cuba diplomatic ties and serves on the Latino Victory Fund National Committee. Felice comes to us with so many years of international experience and just a wealth of information from being an entrepreneur over, I know he looks young, but over decades. Ricky Cassini co-founded and serves as the CEO of Microma, a biotech platform producing natural ingredients in a sustainable, scalable, and cost-effective way. The startup aims to replace synthetic petroleum-derived ingredients that are currently being used in various industries. Microma was selected as one of the best 500 food tech startups in Forward Fooding's Food Tech 500. And finally, Kareem Pichara co-founded and is currently the CTO of NotCo, a food tech company producing plant-based alternatives to animal-based products with the aid of machine learning and applied scientific knowledge. Kareem developed and implemented the first version of Giuseppe, NotCo's AI chef that creates the plant-based formulas of the company's main food products. He's also a research assistant at the Institute of Applied Computational Science from Harvard University and a researcher in the Millennium Institute of Astrophysics. So you can see, guys, this could not be a more diverse set of people, but who make an impact every day. And I'm really excited to just have you meet them and get to know them as individuals, not just their incredible titles. So let's start with Melissa. Can you just tell us about your incredible journey to being able to really change the face of an entire city and community and bring together just incredible people from all over the world to celebrate Miami?
Oh, thank you, Susan, and thank you to for this opportunity. So excited. This is really full circle, both for Felice and myself, because the University Hemispheric Consortium was actually launched at Emerge a few years ago. That was the kickoff of this consortium. So to be here today with all of you is just really, really exciting. And I guess to answer your question of like where all of this stemmed from and where this sort of social entrepreneurship idea came to be, believe it or not, it actually stemmed from a place of wanting to give back and wanting to create impact, but also out of frustration, a lot of frustration. And that is because back in 2009, 2010, I worked for a technology company here in Miami, and it was very hard to hire talent. And it was very frustrating traveling all over the world and people asking us, why is your company headquartered in Miami? Nobody really understood. It was an IT infrastructure and cloud computing company that had been founded by my father. So the idea of Emerge Americas, which is to bring together all the key ecosystem stakeholders, academia, investors, entrepreneurs, global enterprises from all over the world here in Miami, really stemmed from one, believing that Miami has all the elements to become a thriving tech hub, but also out of a place of frustration and knowing that if we work together, which we did with the support of and so many other organizations, we could make this dream come true.
Well, I think you touched upon something really important there. It's where do great ideas come from? They come from a problem that's giving you pain. Do you want to expound on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was, like I said, it was frustration. And the frustration was really because we believed that South Florida and Miami had everything that it takes to become a thriving tech ecosystem. And it was just, what can we do to spark that? What can we do to kind of light a fire and to help create a positive snowball effect? And the first idea was to create a convening, which is Emerge Americas, the conference. But we can tell you, and Felice can help with this as well. It has transformed into much more than just a conference. And I think that's another point here, where you start with one idea, but it's very fluid and it grows and becomes something much bigger and much more exciting, as long as the mission remains the same, which it does still to this day.
Well, and I think Felice is such an incredible example of an entrepreneur where many people would just be overwhelmed by the thought of taking on immigration policy or help or doing anything in politics. You saw the problem and you were just so committed to it that it's amazing what you've been able to do. So share your story, please.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, Susan, for the opportunity to join you today and to the entire consortium. I think what's really interesting is that when I ventured on my first socially entrepreneurial venture, I didn't really know what it was at first, and I didn't identify myself as an entrepreneur. To your point about where it starts with a problem you're trying to solve, right? And for me, it started when I was in college, and my family is Cuban, like Melissa's, Cuban American, and came from Cuba to the U.S. in search of freedom and opportunity, their version of the American dream. I had studied about Cuba through a book and through the stories of my parents and my grandparents. And I had a teacher who told me that if I thought I was going to get to know Cuba through a book, I was wrongly mistaken, but that from afar, she looked very black and white. Once you got close to her, she turned into 10,000 shades of gray. The only way I'd really get to know her was by going there. And I went and I discovered that it was a beautiful place, incredible people, unfortunately trapped in a very difficult situation, what some almost characterize as a nightmare. Many folks just wanting to leave because they couldn't find a better life for themselves and their families on the island. And I came back and said, I can't let this be a standalone experience. I have to do something about it. And that's when I started reaching out to other young people who I thought, like myself, wanted to help and give back and help our counterparts on the island make a better life for themselves and their families on the island. And we did it through technology and entrepreneurship. And when we started down that path, we grew it into an organization of more than 10,000 members across the U.S. We launched entrepreneurial programs, including Startup Cuba in partnership with Florida International University, and we were able to gain a lot of traction from it. But what we were looking to do and searching to do was help it make it more self-sustainable and more scalable. And I was able to draw on some of the comparative experiences from the private sector to the nonprofit sector. And I had someone who told me that that a lot of people define impact as being able to improve people's lives and to meet a social need that otherwise the market can't meet. And that truly is what I think a social entrepreneur seeks to do. And I think that's whether you're in the nonprofit sector or for-profit sector, it's about being able to make an impact on people's lives and to scale and reach those that otherwise aren't able to have access to those resources.
Well, I think especially in the last few years, we've seen so many people want to start initiatives like you did at Roots of Hope. And I think the inspiration of just starting with, I want to learn more, and then how do we fix this, and using technology, even if you don't have a background in technology, just figuring out the sustainability and scalability is such a key piece to the difference between doing something and building real impact. So I'm really glad you shared that part. I'd love to just also get your thoughts on, when you think about from where it started to where it evolved, I mean, could you have even imagined, exactly to Melissa's point, that evolution over such a short period of time?
No, I don't. I think when you start on that entrepreneurial journey, I think you start with an idea and maybe a vision of where you're ultimately driving towards. But as Melissa said, it iterates, and you take in the learnings from others, and also ultimately from your customers and the users of or those that you seek to serve, to help improve what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And through that learning experience, hopefully you get better and better, and you hopefully get more and more traction. And with that said, I think for any social entrepreneur, what you have to do is you have to dig deep into what it is that drives you to do what you do. And it's by having that clear sense of what that why is and that purpose that helps you push through sometimes the most difficult challenges that any entrepreneur will face. And it's that deep resilience and grit that helps you break through in moments when others will give up. And I think that's I think part of what it means to be an entrepreneur.
Well, just hearing the way you said that, I'm going to put it a slightly different way just so everybody can understand. So many times people, especially nascent entrepreneurs, think that the idea is the value and that their job is to implement an idea. But going back to your comment, Felice, it really is understanding what problem you're trying to solve and being unrelenting and trying to understand what the problem actually is and how to solve that, which the question may have started from an idea you had, but it's that iteration is such an important part of the process because that's when you really get to the solution. Is that pretty well summing it up?
Absolutely, absolutely.
What a team. Okay, I'm really happy to have Ricky. Hey, man. So I'm very excited for you to share your story because when we talked earlier, I loved hearing about where this all started for you in college.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here. Such great panelists we have today. So yeah, everything started in college. I thought that I wanted to follow the corporate life. That was my feeling when I started university, business administration degree. Working for a big corporation. I think that was for me. But at the end of the college, I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to create impact. I didn't want to create slides, presentations, and have meetings all the time. I wanted to do something real that could create an impact in the world. So after finishing my college degree, I had a few startup ideas that failed, and that's okay. It's okay to fail. But at the same time, I was working as a professor at Austral University and also a management consultant, which allowed me to see different problems in the industry. But 2 years ago, I met my co-founder, and actually he's the one that he had the idea. He told me about his crazy idea of making food dyes using fungi to replace petroleum-based dyes in a more sustainable way. And I love it. I thought it wasn't only a way to create impact, but also made a lot of sense on my business mindset. And actually that was the start of Microma. And now 2 years after creating the company, I realized that all my life, I did things that was related to entrepreneurship, but I didn't realize that until a year ago, maybe. So maybe a lot of people here in this webinar have the same mindset. They can become entrepreneurs and they don't know it yet.
Well, I think it really starts from knowing you want to be a problem solver. And then it's a decision of if you're going to do it for someone else or you're going to take on the risk. But I would love for you to talk a little bit about how do you know what idea to go after? Because you had a lot of ideas starting up and some of them are really good, but you just stopped pursuing it. So what does that process look like when you have a bunch of ideas or you think one is really good? How do you actually start to figure out if that's worth your time and energy and love for the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a good question. Actually, sometimes it's hard to find good ideas, and also it's hard to select from a bunch of ideas that you may have. So both things are hard. But I think that the most important stuff is to do things that are meaningful to you. Try to do it, and while you encounter problems, you're going to find the real solution that you're targeting. Like Felice and Melissa said, ideas are not worthy. Executing them are worth. It's what valuable. So basically, maybe you can start with an idea. We started with this idea of making food dyes using fungi, but we realized that the value that we were creating wasn't only on the product itself, but it was the platform that we were creating behind it. And we discovered that through doing it. Yeah, I think we just need to do it, experiment, and try to find the real problem that we are looking to solve.
Well, thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited to keep Melissa, do you have a comment, please?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that I loved when Ricky said that it was a crazy idea, because I always quote the late Steve Jobs, that, you know, the famous quote, the people who are crazy enough to change the world are the ones who do. And I feel like we've gotten that a lot at Emerge, especially early on. You know, you all are crazy. Why would you be doing that here? You know, and I think some of those, when you get asked those questions, like, take that as a compliment. You might get intimidated early on, but I think that means you're onto something and you should continue to explore it.
I
think that's
completely
a great
agree.
point. And that's kind of the reason why this initiative needs to exist. Because sometimes we might be that crazy person in our community, and maybe the other person who's going to be the right fit for making something fantastic happen is at one of these other schools. So it's all about putting stuff out there.
Absolutely, connecting the dots.
Always. So
yeah,
Kareem,
and always being
sorry, Ricky, go ahead.
curious. Being curious is key, because I didn't know anything about science, and I created a biotech company with my co-founder. So yeah, you can learn everything. You just need to have the energy.
Well, sometimes it's not knowing an area really well that lets you see it from a totally different perspective and ask questions that might be really clear to the experts, but because you're coming in with an open canvas, you're able to look at it and solve the problem from a different direction. We're seeing that now across so many industries. So just because you're not an expert doesn't mean that your idea won't be the thing that changes an industry. You just have to get out there. So last but not least, Kareem, welcome. Please share your journey with us, because NotCo is doing such amazing things. And how did you end up on this path?
Hey, Susan. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me here. I'm glad to be with such a great panel. Yeah, well, how we got the idea. Well, first of all, I was 100% in the academia. In general, I always loved the future, and I always loved to learn new things. And this is why I was like a full-time professor in the computer science department in Catholic University in Chile. And I was mostly working in AI and machine learning and data science. I fell in love of that field back in 2005, and been working on that since there. And one day I got this conversation with Matthias, the founder of NotCo, one of the three founders, right? He brought this conversation to me, and he told me, you know, the food system is totally broken. And he showed me why. I mean, basically, I was never in a direct contact with the food industry, but I learned in that conversation, and after doing some research, that the system was really awful. I mean, these concentrate animal feeding operations where you have hundreds or thousands of animals, one right next to the other, every 24/7 with antibiotics and hormones to produce food for us, and carrying out so many mutations of different kinds of viruses and bacteria was a really, like, besides being so cruel system, unsustainable, destroying the earth just because we like to eat that kind of food. It was super crazy. And on top of that, we realized that none of the existing technologies were being applied in the food system at all. The food system was basically the same in the last 50 or 100 years. So he told me, do you think any of the technologies that you are working with or developing to analyze the space, or any of the AI technologies used for images or text or whatever, could be useful for the food system? And then I started studying, and I realized that there was some data out there. And at the end, the main problem was that people will not stop eating what they eat if you offer them alternatives that are not tasty. that's the truth at the end. So most of the plant-based alternatives were famous as non-appealing food, like not tasty, not nice, and people was keep eating the animal versions. So the motivation was, if we want to restart the food industry, let's offer people products that are as tastier as the animal versions, but without the animal in the equation. If we start, we're going to get a huge movement behind us. And the question was how we do this, right? We have no idea how to come up with formulas that can mimic an animal-based target without sacrificing flavor and texture. And that was the main driver for the creation of the technology, in where we realized that after having the first version that was working, and we were finding very crazy combinations of ingredients, of plant-based ingredients that were getting really close to the animal-based target. So that was the beginning, and at the end, something that is being very important at NOTCO is this mission, right? This is a huge movement of changing such a big industry. Today, after NOTCO started, you have hundreds of companies changing the way they are making their products. And that feels great. I mean, you see companies in Chile, like we're 50 years selling the same animal-based mayo or the same burgers or ice cream. After we launch our products, like they realize that they need to change as well. And they come up with alternatives, plant-based alternatives. And that feels great because you feel like everyone is joining the movement in pro of changing the world. So that's why we're here.
Well, thank you for sharing that story, even though I have completely lost my appetite for a very long time. I will not be able to get that imagery out of my head, but otherwise very interesting. So, but I mean, it's so, you have all these parallel lives, the research you do and teaching and revolutionizing the food industry. How did you make that decision to be able to put yourself in so many different areas and still, I mean, find the time to know that this is your mission and what you want to spend your time doing?
Well, to be honest, I've been for many years mostly focused in NOTCO, right? Even though I was doing the research and teaching, at some point the company became serious. You know, we created a company, and I don't see any other way of being in a startup and making it a successful company without being full-time and full life dedicated to it. So I am actually. I still have some connections with the research world, of course, because I like it, but most of my efforts and bandwidth are today dedicated to NOTCO.
Well, I'm sure your investors are very happy to hear that. So let's go back to Felice, because we have some great questions coming in the QA. I would love for you to share, what's your best advice to form good teams to build a business or project? So not just forming good teams, but share what lessons learned. What did you have to go through to get to this point where you could have all of these successes at this point?
That's a great question. I think, and one that has, if I think back on my career, my life, and different teams, what has worked well and what hasn't. I think for those that have worked well, at its core, it's the core values, the shared principles that define who we are and what we strive to accomplish and do. And actually in the companies that I've started, and when I've come into a company that's already been established, going through an exercise where we define what our core values are, and it has been instrumental in at least laying that groundwork and making clear what defines us and what differentiates us. So I think that's important. Having very clear goals. And so we go through a similar type of a process to define what those goals are, so that everyone is clear what we're driving towards, and understanding also what's the division of labor in terms of how we're going to attack those objectives, and then clear lines of communication and as much as possible utter transparency. I think one of the things that I've prided myself in my previous life, and Melissa and I pride ourselves in at Emerge, is making sure that we're accessible to our team as much as we can, that we're completely transparent with our team in terms of our decision making, why it is that we do what we do, and that when we have good news or bad news, that we share it quickly with our team, and help and enlist them in helping us solve the challenges that we face. So I think, in addition to that, I would say trust is key, and we are very fortunate at Emerge that we have a great a great leader in our founder Melissa, who from the beginning has set that tone, and now as her business partner, I'm honored to be a part of that journey. But I would say again, it's values, it's clear goals, objectives, transparency, and clear lines of communication, and ultimately trust that everyone knows you've got their back, and then vice versa, they got yours.
Well, the Emerge team is second to none, with just incredible global professionals. I want to hear from Ricky, when you're just starting out in college and the people you may be working with have no business experience, how do you figure out who's going to be a good teammate for you? How do you start doing that diligence to make sure that some of the comments Felice mentioned, that there's alignment, and what does that look like?
Well, that's also a great question. So my first few startups, they failed because the team, and that was the main reason of failure. The first one, we had similar backgrounds, and also we didn't get along very well. So that was the first reason why it failed. The second one, I learned, and basically I selected a group of people with different backgrounds. So it's imperfect, but it also failed because they weren't motivated enough. And when I met my co-founder, it was both a combination of alignment in terms of what we wanted to do, how we wanted to change the world, and different backgrounds. He's a PhD in biological sciences. He has 2 postdocs, 15 years of experience in industrial bioprocesses, and I'm experienced in business. So it was the perfect fit to create a biotech startup. Of course, it was very hard at the beginning. I didn't know anything about science. I didn't know what the cell was. I didn't know what fungi was. So I had to learn a lot from him. I went to the lab. I made experiments myself. I launched bioreactors, and everything I did, it was very helpful to now be able to talk for an hour, 2 hours with an investors, and they don't know if my background is on business or science, and the same for him, because we learn from each other, and we continue doing that all the time. But yeah, it's key to have a great alignment. It's key to be able to solve the problems that you want to solve.
Perfect. So we have another incredible question coming in, and this one's for Melissa. How do you move to contact people to join your idea, including investors, co-founders, partners, and workers? And before she answers, one of the big prizes of this whole thing is being able to share your idea at the preeminent conference of the Americas, Emerge Americas. So just putting that out there as probably the #1 best answer. Sorry to take that from you. Melissa, what would you do to get people engaged when you have an idea?
Yeah, I think most importantly to get people engaged is that, one, you really have to believe in whatever it is that you're pitching, but you also have to be really prepared. You have to be prepared to answer a lot of questions. I think you should have a solid idea, pitch deck, not be caught off guard. Always feel as if whoever you're speaking to, whether it's your neighbor, a colleague, someone that you run into that asks you what you do, that that elevator pitch, that you're able to answer, with as much detail as possible. And I would also say another great piece of advice that someone gave to me as I began navigating this journey is, don't be afraid to ask for help. And also don't be afraid to lean on past relationships. And that kind of goes back to what Felice mentioned and Ricky mentioned as well about trust. go back to companies or organizations that you've worked with in the past that might be able to help you on this journey. So when we started with Emerge, we definitely had a lot of pushback and a lot of people telling us we were crazy, but we also leaned a lot on the partnerships and organizations that we worked with when we were at Terramark, and they believed in us. They believed in our idea, but they believed more in us as entrepreneurs. They believed in our work ethic. So I think leaning on those relationships also helps, and just always ask for feedback, and try to apply that where you think best.
I think Melissa touched upon something so important here. I'm sure many of you have heard of the phrase, it's you bet on the jockey, not the horse. And even if you've never been a successful entrepreneur before, if you have shown people that you're responsible and honest and ethical and authentic, and you follow through and you do the research and you do the work, you will be shocked by how many people are going to fight for you. And exactly what Melissa said, it's those relationships usually become your first investors and the people who make introductions for you and vouch for you, because they know you, and you're not going to spend a lot of time trying to build something that is about you instead of solving a problem. Is that safe, Melissa?
Yeah, absolutely. And just, I think to summarize it, also just keep your word. I think that's something I was taught from a very, very young age. And it also goes back to trust. But if you're pitching something and you're selling something, whether it's an idea or a solution, follow through on those promises. Of course, people make mistakes and you readjust. But I think if people know that you're doing everything you can to keep your word, it's going to help you build those relationships.
Definitely. Kareem, so it is such a huge vision of everything you're doing at NotCo. So what kind of metrics do you put in place to say, now we're successful? Can you go through a mini exercise on how you start to put together metrics for success when you have an impact business, when you're a social entrepreneur? What does that look like?
That's a very good question. I believe that the metrics are dynamic, that you cannot have a metric that evaluates the success one day and then you're ready to celebrate and relax, right? At the end, metrics must measure growth, evolution, and vision, and you need to always deliver on those. At the end, it doesn't matter if today we are delivering a good number in some metric, if there is not clarity that we are going to keep growing. So you have different metrics for different teams. In my case, the science and technology are the areas that I am today currently leading in the company, mostly focused in the technology and in the products of the future. And it is always important that you make sure you have a clear path and vision such that the technology is growing into that direction. So at the end, you need to align everyone in the mission, which is one, in our case, is like take out the animal out of the equation, but that is translated into so many things that will be different tasks for different teams, right? So in our case, we always define the projects and we track the progress according to the delivery on the features we want for the technology at a given time. So for example, if we decide that the next problem we want to tackle is the creation of a technology that helps us to improve the texture of foods, of plant-based foods, we got at the end, what really matters is that when you deliver the technology, you actually improve the texture. That's the final delivery, and that's what you need to accomplish. So sometimes people get confused into, maybe the progress of technology are the lines of codes that you're writing, and that's totally wrong. I mean, it doesn't matter. You have so many lines of codes. If you're not delivering in the final goal, it means that you haven't accomplished what you must to do, because that last line is the one that is going to deliver value and help you into achieving the mission that the whole company has. So, and that's an important key thing. And also having a great culture is one of the key things to bring like a team for success and achieve most of the metrics at the end, right? So I just wanted to add to the previous ideas on trust and all. the necessary things to have a great partner or a team, I believe that diversity is great, because when you have such a diverse team with very talented people, usually the team moves alone, and the decisions are much more clear, and you don't have to enforce reports, or this is the person that tells what should be done. I mean, in general, when you have one mission and you have a very talented and diverse team, the next step is clear and everyone agrees on it.
Well, we're going to have a fast speed round now. I'm going to have each of the 4 panelists give us a final thought of something that will help you come up with the great idea, implement the great idea, anything you wish you had known when you started. Melissa, can you start?
Sure. I would say trust your gut. I think I questioned my gut a lot when I was younger, and I wish I would have someone just always telling me, like, trust your gut, trust your instincts, always believe in yourself.
Excellent. Ricky, you have a good one?
Yeah, I have one especially for students. What is important is that if you put enough effort, you can do better than most of the people. I think that's something that I didn't know, and I realized after 2 years of working in this company.
Kareem, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think that something I wish I knew before is like, you need to make sure you enjoy the ride. Don't believe that you're going to enjoy it when you get there, because when you get there, you're not going to enjoy as much as you believed before. So enjoy the ride, because there is the happiness in the everyday. Is the road. It's not the final goal, the one that's going to make you happy.
Excellent. All of us almost got whiplash from nodding so much. Felice.
I think I completely agree with everyone. If I had one last piece of advice, it would be don't fear to fail. It's in failing that we learn the most, and those lessons will translate to your next venture or the next product or the next service that you're going to launch. So don't fear it. Actually embrace it and fail, but fail fast, and then get right back up again and keep going.
Well, I want to thank, on behalf of the consortium, these incredible panelists. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, being so open, and really helping us all remember it's all about the customer and making sure there's impact. So Melissa, Felice, Ricky, Kareem, thank you very much for kicking us off on such an incredible note.
Thank you,
Thank
Susan.
you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you to you,
all of you wonderful attendees. There were a lot of other questions in the chat that we didn't get a chance to address. There's going to be a series of workshops coming up that will make sure address metrics, how to develop metrics specifically aligned to the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals of this challenge. Definitely on bootstrapping. How do you start with no money? Hustle is the answer. With that, we're going to turn it over to my dear friend Ella McPhillip, the Assistant Dean of Undergraduate Business Studies at Miami Herbert Business School, to give us an overview of the challenge. And good luck to you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amat, and what a wonderful panel you delivered. We want to just say thank you so much to the panelists who gave really from their heart as well as their enormous experience. And I hope that you, the students who are going to be actually taking us along for this ride, that you're actually going to be able to recall some of the enormous information and experiences that were shared and see how they apply to your specific journey. So thanks again to the panel. So here's how, and here's what we're going to be talking about. How do we actually participate in this challenge? So in truthfulness, this event is really all about you discovering how to make and be an impactful entrepreneur, or actually to share an idea that we hope and that you hope will fundamentally reshape or ignite solutions around very specific problems. And that's why we want so much for the young people, the students at our various universities, to engage in this initiative, because we know that the lens through which you will help solve these problems is really brand new. The ideas that you will bring to the table, that you will initiate, are not ideas that are actually on the table now, or even if they are on the table, if your energy is brought to bear, we will reconsider these ideas from an entirely different perspective. So we're really interested in, no matter what idea you come up with, we want you to be really thoughtful and to really swing for the fences in terms of addressing the challenges, or figuring out what the problem is you're trying to solve, to really swing for the fences in terms of coming up with a solution. So this is an enormous opportunity then for you to really not only think big, but also to be trained and to do some research on some of the most intractable problems our communities, our region, our world actually faces. And that's why we've centered this particular challenge on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals as described and categorized by the United Nations. So the whole point is that whatever problem you identify and its accompanying solution, we're going to be concentrating on 11 of the 17 SDGs. And you'll be able, when you download the rules, when you apply, you'll be able to see which of the 11 SDGs makes the most sense for you to actually pursue, and which of the 11 areas and social environmental challenges really appeal to you. And so it's a really broad swath of goals that you can sort of tackle, and it should allow you both a framework, but also a way to really deeply think about some of the problems that you want to address. So the contest has 4 separate stages. Today is the first stage. It's the international launch, and that's really sort of the beginning of when we sign off tonight, we're off to the races. And so today, as you've seen, is all about setting the table, helping you believe and see that by engaging in this opportunity, by really trying to tease out an idea that really specifically addresses some of these deep problems that we face, that you are on the road, that you are the beginning. Just as our featured guests shared, it was an idea that they encountered, an idea that someone else brought to them, or that they themselves saw as solving a particular problem or pain point that they saw. And so the idea is the seed to the deed, as they say. And so that's why getting you involved at this early stage is so important. So this is why today is the beginning of what we hope will be an incredible journey for many of you. The second stage of the challenge is actually from today until October 17th. So September 22nd to October 17th is when you and your teammates will have an opportunity to pitch your ideas, to pitch the solution to the problem that you have identified. And when we're at the end of this presentation, you'll see where you go to actually apply and then get onto our platform for you to address or pitch your idea. October 17th is the deadline for every single team throughout the hemisphere to pitch their ideas. And the criteria by which the solutions or your teams will be evaluated will be exactly the same. So what we'll be looking for is, how have you identified the problem? In other words, how specifically have you said that a problem, the problem is that you're trying to encounter? You heard from each of our entrepreneurs that they had a specific pain point that they were actually trying to address, and how impactful that pain point actually, or what that solution was going to be. So every single team needs to be able to identify the problem and how their solution specifically addresses the problem. That's the first criteria. The second criteria is going to be about the creativity and the innovation behind the solution. It isn't so much that we're looking for something so extraordinary out of the box that it's not feasible, but if the idea has already been tried and true, if you're proposing that idea, what's new, what's different about how you're going to execute on that idea that makes it worthy of being selected for presentation? So creativity, innovation, those are really important values that you also need to be considering as you identify the problem and the solution you're proposing. The third criteria that's very important is what's the potential impact? What's the scalability? Is your solution going to help 10 people, 1,000 people, 100,000 people? Although we want to be able to help 10, if your idea is only helping 10 and another idea is able to help 1,000, that gives it a slightly different scale of impact. And so we really want to be thoughtful about the value proposition as well as the scalability of the solution that's proposed. It's also important that when we're talking about scalability is how feasible is the solution that you're proposing? Has the technology been created yet? Or are we going to have to invent new technologies? Is the problem that you're trying to solve and the solution that you're proposing, is it so far out of the box that we'll have to wait decades before we can implement? In other words, the feasibility of the solution you're trying to employ is also very important. And then lastly, on the platform that you will in fact be presenting your idea, we want to see the quality and persuasiveness of your presentation. It matters that you are able to be thoughtful, to be relevant, to be creative, but how persuasive are you that the idea that you are proposing is in fact something that's worthy for the world to consider? And so in this way, all teams throughout the Hemispheric Consortium are being evaluated on the same criteria. These criteria will be available to you when you actually download the application and participate on the website. All of these ideas will also be available to you. So by October 17th, you will see that all teams must have submitted their proposals, and each university will have until October 22nd to identify the quarterfinalists. The quarterfinalists are those teams that will then have been selected because of the quality of their ideas, the feasibility, the scalability. These are the teams that will in fact participate in the regional, local finals at the universities. Each university has set a specific date for the local competition. And these competitions will either be held live or virtually. There are a set of guidelines that each university has shared with us, and you'll be able to access that through the special website that is also going to be made available to every single team that participates or proposes an idea. The local competition will be an opportunity then to really dig deep into the presentation and to the various criteria that has been proposed by each team. So the expectation is that the best ideas and the best teams will be selected to compete against each other in these local competitions. So these teams that are selected for their local competitions will also be asked to attend several workshops that are basically being offered by each university in the consortium. This is an opportunity for you not to only learn a lot about the nitty-gritty details of social entrepreneurship, but to also ask really substantive questions about the ideas that you are seeking to propose. So this is going to be a great networking opportunity, but also a mentoring opportunity where you're going to be able to really vet your idea with experts and with people who are in the space, and have it be a really hands-on experience, so that come your specific date, which will be starting in November all the way to December the 13th, you will have had the most opportunities to really tease out where the pain points are for your particular proposal, how you solve those particular pain points, how do you improve your presentation, and basically really vet the quality of your idea. The opportunity for these workshops basically will take place the week of October 25th. And again, if your team makes it through these quarterfinals to present in the local regional competitions, you will get all of this information both via specialized emails as well as through the website. But the important thing is that we want you to compete at your most essential, with the expectation that you'll have put your best foot forward for the university's experts to select the top teams. If one of the things that's really unique about the consortium's efforts is that even if you and your team's idea is not selected to compete in the local competition, there will be one closing event on December 13th. Every single university has committed to this date. And regardless of the status of your team, if you were not selected, you're going to receive feedback on the idea that you have proposed. So the important thing here is that the experts and the faculty and entrepreneurs who are in support of this initiative, we've all committed that no matter who has been selected, every single team that participates will have the opportunity for substantive and specific feedback so that they can take their idea to the next level should they wish to. The last stage of the event is really the international competition. And this is the idea that Dr. Amat shared, where whether through the teams that win their local competitions will either be virtually competing or in-person competing in Miami. And these teams representing each of our universities will be afforded an amazing opportunity to connect more deeply with people like our panelists, with experts in the field that they have identified, and basically have real deep learning and opportunities to engage with people who care about the idea that you are proposing. The international competition will take place in April and will afford you, the teams that represent our various universities, an amazing opportunity to really speak to people who can help you shape or reshape how we address these very specific and intractable problems. So that's the framework for the competition. That's the timeline of the competition. And that's how we think that starting with just the basic seed of an idea, not only do you begin to have conversations with other students or other young people in your community, in your university, in your country, and fundamentally in the world, we take this one little moment and actually accelerate it so that it gets traction and then ignites around a much bigger enterprise. No one could have told Felice and Melissa that their idea was going to fundamentally change the city of Miami. No one could have told Kareem that his very idea of changing the food industry was going to come from literally a chance encounter or an idea that wasn't even part of his lexicon starting out as a young scientist. So that's why we hope you too will take a seed idea with the expectation that from an idea, we can change the world. So we're ready to start. And so we want to encourage you to apply. And I want to, before we really sort of kick off this whole initiative, we want to say a very special thank you to the Universidad Pontificia Católica de Chile, the Universidad Andrés Bello, also in Chile, Universidad Austral in Argentina, Universidad San Francisco de Quito in Ecuador, Tecnológico de Monterrey in Mexico. We also are so very grateful to all of your students and your faculty and your expertise. And then lastly, to our host, the University of Miami here in the United States. This is an extraordinary undertaking by each of our institutions, and we're so excited about the program and the opportunity to see what our kids are going to do. We're so excited. And so thank you so much for your engagement, your dedication, and ultimately your joy in bringing this opportunity to fruition. So here we go. So we are ready to get you to apply. On your screen, please take a photograph of the QR code that is on your screen. That will give you a fast access to both the guidelines for the competition as well as the application process. You can also, in the chat, you can see that there is a specialized website. You can go directly to the website, and immediately after today's webinar, there will be a very special email that goes out to everyone who participated today. So please look for your email, which will share all of the information on how to participate. So we are just about ready to say ready, set, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Here we go, folks. We're ready to go. Thank you so much for your attention, your joy, your commitment. We're really excited, and we hope to see you in the next few weeks and months to see what you bring to the table. Good night, everybody.